Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is where you're watching from. I'm Maren-The from Unapologetically Maren, the Cornbread Chronicles. We are coming to you today with guest Maddie Andrews. She has doing some amazing things involving mental health. She has really been making an impact, and I cannot wait for her to share her story with you guys and let you know more about herself and what she brings, to our mental health world table. So, Maddie, how are you? And just introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is
Yes.
Maddie. I am a Master's of Social Work student, nonprofit founder, qualified professional, peer support specialist, two-time
She's
award
all the
winner,
things.
but all the things, but it was all really born out of my own lived experience with my own mental health journey. I wouldn't be doing anything I do today if it wasn't for my own mental health diagnosis.
Absolutely. Yeah, our stories are and our journeys definitely depict who we are and what we want to do and what we want to bring and how we're going to help break the stigma
Yeah.
ourselves, because we've been there.
Yes.
We know what it's like. We live this world. So tell
Yeah.
us, how did you get started? So tell us a little bit about your story.
My story is pretty long and complicated.
Girl,
It
same.
it it really started when I was 4, so I had this like super traumatic experience. I was actually sexually assaulted in preschool, and
Oh
I
no.
told my teacher, and she was like, "You're a bad kid. This is your fault. If you tell your parents, you're gonna be in a
No.
lot of trouble." And I suddenly stopped sleeping, became overly attached to my parents, had panic attacks at 4 years old at night. It was like terrible. And then fast forward to middle school, I started developing symptoms like mania, depression, psychosis. Um, and what the problem was, I wasn't telling anybody these things.
Yeah.
Like the dysregulation was pretty obvious. I
Yeah.
mean, but as far as like the psychosis, the things I was hearing, seeing, and feeling, I was not disclosing that to my family. The paranoia, the delusions, um, and I really didn't start to disclose that until I was in college. And it was because it was an emergency. I had started self harming to try to cope. I had started using
Oh,
drugs and alcohol to try to cope because I didn't understand what was happening
yeah.
to me. And when you're a kid and when you're that young, you think everybody thinks the same thing. Everybody does the same thing. Everybody's the same. So I thought
Right.
everybody thought people lived in their bushes. I thought
Right.
everybody thought phones were tapped. I thought everybody talked to people who weren't there. Like it was not something that came across my mind as unusual.
Yeah.
And so I was in college at 19, but I pretty much couldn't leave my house because of the paranoid delusions and depression. And my mom found out and came to stay with me, and I got through exams, but then I had to drop out of school. Like I was too sick. I ended up by the time I was 23 hospitalized 4 times. They diagnosed me with bipolar disorder, but that's not really what I have. I actually have what's called schizoaffective bipolar type, which means I have symptoms of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, along with generalized anxiety, complex PTSD, and OCD. Um,
You just described
but
me,
the
except for I have borderline personality disorder instead of the schizo.
Okay,
Everything else, but I'm borderline compared with
yeah,
bipolar 2, severe anxiety.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
We're like little
yeah. It's a
twinsies.
fun time. It's a fun
Right.
time. Yeah. So I dropped out of school and I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Like, I worked in the field of special needs, like helping special needs populations, and I liked it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then after rehab, my parents were like, can't come home. You got to figure this
Mhm.
shit out. So I moved into a halfway house and started to learn how to be an adult, started
Yeah.
to learn how to manage my mental health. I got sober, but the mental health aspect really didn't, that recovery didn't come until I was 35 years old. In my 20s, I was dealing with extreme mania, really risky, illegal, dangerous
Yes.
behaviors because I was manic. When I was depressed, I was so suicidal that I couldn't think of anything else. Vicious self harming, just it was terrible. It was a nightmare. And then the doctors were like trying this medication and that medication, and I was on like so many medications, like
Yeah.
10, 15 meds, and they
Yeah.
all have these crazy side effects. And so you go to the doctor and it's like, well, I'm having this side effect. Well, let's just slap this other medication on you real quick, and before you know it, you're taking half
Yep.
the pharmacy.
Oh yeah. Still to this
In the
day.
process, yeah, in the process of all that, I did get back in school and obtain my undergraduate degree in special education, and became a special education teacher. And I used work as my coping skill. I was
Yeah.
really good at my job, but my personal
That was
life
me.
really sucked. I was not
Same.
functioning at home, but I could function at work really well. I call it wearing a mask in public. So I know what society thinks I should do. I know what
Exactly.
society thinks I should say. And I'm really good at portraying that. Like, if you ask me today how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you I'm great. Even if I'm not, I'm going to
Right.
smile. I'm going to react. But really, it's like living in two worlds when you have
Yeah.
schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Because say you're talking to me, I hear your response, I'm in reality, but then there's the world going on in my own brain where I'm like paranoia, delusion, anxiety, voices, like all these other aspects. And there was points of my life where I couldn't even respond to people because I was so caught up here, or
Yeah.
maybe it was too late in the conversation, or maybe I was too paranoid to respond. So I really isolated a lot. And so in 2021, when I was about, I don't know, 32, I was so suicidal that I was not functioning for about a year. And it was a scary time for my husband and I. We were trying everything we possibly could to get me out of it. And I was still working until 2022, and I decided it was my life or the job. Like, I'm gonna end up dying by suicide if I don't do something about this. So I quit my job, and I woke up the next morning sobbing, like in my sleep. And that was my sole coping skill. I was like, oh no, what did I do? Like, I have nothing
Yeah.
now. Um, and so I woke up, and I came in the living room, and I wrote the note, and I made the plan. And then I heard my husband. I was sobbing really loudly, and I could hear my husband in the other room. He's like, "Shut up!" He's not good to wake up at night.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what was going on. And he came in there, and I was like, so I lost my mom to suicide in 2019,
Oh.
and I thought about what that pain was for me. And I
Yes.
thought about my husband's first words to me when I told him how suicidal I was. He said, "Why would you do this to me?" And at first I thought that was selfish, but really it was life saving, because when I was making that plan and writing that note, I said, what would this do to him?
Yeah.
And he got up, and we called my doctor, who told me to have a home hospital, whatever the hell that means. I should have been hospitalized. Um, and I really struggled for a few years after that, just deeply depressed. I couldn't process emotions. I was unmotivated. I was 420 pounds. I was losing my hair. I was not living my life at all. I was miserable. And then in 2023, about April, my doctor called with a new medication. And I'm like, whatever, what's one more? I don't really care. Except the difference this time is I started processing emotions. I could cry, I could smile. I didn't have flat affect. I was not depressed. I was not wanting to kill myself. I was living. I was wanting I couldn't even shower and brush my teeth for many years of my
Yeah.
life because I was so
Yeah.
depressed.
Me too.
So all of a sudden I started doing these things. So they started backing off other medications. But the thing about this new drug is it's not FDA regulated to treat mania. It's only FDA regulated to treat psychosis and depression. So, ta-da, I become very manic.
Yeah.
Um, to the point that in about October, November, I had to be written out of work and go on short-term disability. I was just not functioning, and I was entering a severe psychotic state. And my husband had to be written out of work to care for me 24/7. I could not be left alone. I could not drive. I could not manage my own medications or appointments. And it was terrible because I mean, when you're caught in the house, I'm very aggressive
Yeah.
when I'm manic. I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but like I
Yeah.
was like cussing him out and like picking
Yeah.
fights, and he was fight. he was so stressed out because he didn't know what was going on, that he was anxious and it was coming out as anger. So my household was torn into pieces, but we were
Yeah.
stuck together all the time. Um, and then they were trying to calm me down with the mania, so they gave me a bunch of sedatives, but I can't take a bunch of sedatives because I'm an addict. So I relapsed. And I
Yeah.
was just popping benzos like candy until my husband could, and I took control and was like, "You can't do this." I was like blacking out, passing out, standing up. It was terrible. Um, and when that didn't work, and the only thing I could do was scream or see hallucinations or hear voices or feel things that weren't real and live in a perpetual state of fear because my hallucinations are very scary, my doctor decided to up my medication called lithium. Lithium is a heavy metal used to treat bipolar disorder. Very effective drug. I was on it 15 years. But the thing is, with lithium, you have to get your blood levels checked. So I had been on, say, 2 doses a day of lithium. She added a third and did not obtain blood work. And pretty quickly there, I was going to the bathroom in the bed. I had to be put into diapers. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't read. I couldn't write. I couldn't swallow. I was turning into a vegetable who was living in a state of fear because of the hallucinations. It was terrible. Um, and then one day my husband put me in his truck to go to therapy, and my therapist calls like, "You missed therapy, okay?" And I got enough strength to utter the words, "Take me to the hospital." My husband was like, "You?" Because I had always told him never take me there, which was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
I should have been taken to the hospital long before this. Um, and so he took me to a local like mental hospital, and they were like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" I was seeing these white specks of light. I was covered in vomit. Like they were like, "This, you have lithium toxicity. You need to go to the ER." Um, and so I went to the emergency room, and I remember walking in, and they were like, "You're on drugs," because my husband was parking the car because I couldn't really talk. I was covered in vomit.
Yeah.
Couldn't really walk. And my husband came in and was like, "No, she has lithium toxicity." And I remember being in triage, and I didn't know where I was, and my skin was crawling, and I was hungry but I couldn't swallow, so my husband was spoon feeding me applesauce, and then the staff told him to go home, so I was alone, confused, and then I became combative, so they restrained me to the bed in the emergency room where I stayed for 3 days, where it was discovered not only did I have extreme lithium toxicity, I had serotonin syndrome as well as a brain injury, acute metabolic in something I can't pronounce. It meant all my blood levels were just so bad that it was like my brain was seizing on the inside constantly. And so they called poison control, and after 3 days in the ER, they got me a bed in the ICU, and the poison control said, "Fluids, fluids, 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 fluids. We got to get this out of her system." And they were pumping me through fluids, but when you push fluids so hard, it enlarged my heart, and I was on the verge of a heart attack. And when your heart is starting to fail and they're pushing fluids, it's gonna pump into your lungs. So the bottom half of both of my lungs collapsed. And the
Um,
lithium was still not gone. I was delusional. They put these, I was ripping out catheters, ripping out IVs, jumping out of bed, swinging, running around the ER naked. It was terrible. So they put these giant mitts on me and tied them to the bed. Um, and eventually they called poison control back, and they said, "You got to give her dialysis. Like, this is not coming out fast enough. She's going to die." I remember a nurse coming in my room and saying, "Maddie, if you don't comply, you're going to die. You're dying." Like, but I was hallucinating. I didn't know where I was. I didn't understand. I was blacking in and out. None of it made sense to me. So I ended up with 2 rounds of dialysis, but then the problem was I was unresponsive.
right.
So they were discussing what's called silent syndrome, which means I'll probably be a vegetable in assisted living the rest of my life. They didn't think I was going to recover. PT was working with me to learn how to sit up. OT was working with me to learn how to brush my teeth, like very basic things. Um, and then after a couple weeks in the ICU, I started to wake up a little bit. And I had no short term memory. Like my husband would leave the ICU room, come back in, and I'd be like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in days." Like no short term memory. I have amnesia permanently from the experience. The only thing I remember is hallucinations. And they transferred me to the mental hospital to get my meds adjusted. The whole time in the hospital, they were saying I was trying to commit suicide and had done this to myself, which is not true. This was doctor negligence.
Right.
Yeah. And in the mental hospital, I didn't know why I was there. I knew I couldn't really walk and talk and do all the things. And so they gave me pen and paper, and I was like, I'm going to learn to write my name. So I taught myself how to write my name. And in the mental hospital, you can't have cell phones. So they had written down phone numbers for me. So I practiced reading and inputting. When you have a brain injury, that's really hard. So reading and inputting. And when I learned to dial the phone, I got on the phone and I was like practicing talking. And I was there for a week for med adjustment. Um, and then I went home and still had no idea what had happened to me. And I laid alone in bed for a couple weeks, just so sure I was dying, begging to die, begging to be with my parents in
Right.
this suffering. I'm in pain. I don't know what's happening. Until one day I learned to read again and I read my medical records.
Oh.
And I learned what happened to me, kind of, as much as I could cognitively understand at that point of the brain injury. And this fire burned in my belly. And I was like, wait a minute. I spent my 20s wanting to die. Now I'm 35 and I almost did die. I can't do much, but I'm going to change my life. And not only am I going to change my life, I'm going to change other people's lives too. Um, so I got on the phone, even though I sounded drunk, I couldn't talk
Yeah.
well, and I begged for resources, which is very hard to find and very hard to do. Our system is very broken.
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
denied a lot. I was denied here, denied there. Too expensive. Didn't take my insurance. Or I went to speech therapy and they said, "Well, you just need meds. You don't need speech." Like it was crazy the amount of I rehabbed myself
Yeah.
basically, and I found a team of doctors, psychiatrists who specialize in serious mental illness. And I started going there when I learned to drive again. And they had a day treatment farm, art therapy, horticulture therapy, music therapy, cooking therapy, movement therapy, and it's free for the clinic. And when I learned to drive again, I went there several days a week. I did their virtual classes and I ate, lived, and breathed recovery. Every skill I learned at that farm, I took home with me and I practiced. I started doing yoga in the mornings. I started drinking my water. I started eating healthy. I started getting my sleep. I started doing coping skills. I started exercising like crazy because I was out of work. I could. And the doctors in the middle hospital were talking years recovery. Yeah, 3 months later, I was back at work after coming home from the hospital.
Oh my.
And
Wow.
yeah, it was amazing. And then 4 months after coming home from the hospital, I said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Why are services so inaccessible? Why are they so unaffordable? Why have I been coached to be silent my entire life about who I am and the way I was born? And why have I never met a soul like me? And nobody could give me an answer I was satisfied with. So I said, I'm just going to change this. And 4 months after coming home, I started a nonprofit called J&E Support Group to change that, to make a difference, to help people. And that's really where my recovery journey began. That's where my work helping other people began. And that was 2 years ago. And now I'm
Look
in
at you
grad school with a
now.
4.0. Now I have a
Yeah.
job at an inpatient unit. Now my business is thriving. I'm hopeful it'll be my full time job when I graduate. Uh, it's amazing what we can do when we find recovery. It took me from 4 years old to 35 to find that. But I did. And it's been a beautiful process ever since. And it's not that I don't have symptoms. Don't get me wrong,
Right, right,
because
right.
recover. Right, I have my days. Everybody's gonna have their days. I still don't do well with stress, extreme stress. Um, but I have to work on myself with that. I have to. I'm a work in progress. I have to learn new coping skills. Like I just started EMDR therapy. I've got the schizoaffective under control, the CPTSD and the anxiety I do not.
Right.
And I don't want to be on like heavy meds for it for the rest of my life. So I started doing EMDR therapy. I'm looking into holistic measures like supplements and oils and teas, to kind of bring the edge down, the over cortisol levels and things like that. I'm exercising again. Exercise has been the best thing for me. Recovery is a lifelong journey. There's always the chance I could relapse, but I do everything in my power not to.
Right.
Um, it's I'm never going to be cured, but I can do anything I want to do now that I'm in recovery.
That is, I didn't know all that about your story. That is such
Yeah.
an amazing, like, journey. And oh my goodness, like, I've got chills, especially because a lot of that reminded me of myself. Like, when my depression is so bad, the whole laying on the couch that came, you have, and my husband doesn't get it. He was like, how does being
No.
depressed mean you can't go brush your teeth and get in the shower for 5 days? I don't know, but it does, and
Yeah.
having borderline personality disorder and being married to someone who has no mental health issues at all and has never really dealt with any body that had mental health issues growing up. So learning someone with bipolar 2 and borderline personality disorder has been really hard. But man, the support system, it sounds
It's
like I mean, your
important.
husband too, like you were going through some major, imagine if
Yeah,
you
we almost got
didn't going
divorced.
through that alone. A lot of
I
people
can't.
can't keep committed relationships when they're in the state that that's amazing that your husband
That's
stood by your side and walked that journey with you.
He is a trooper. He is the reason I am alive today. In many phases of my life, it
Yeah.
took education and communication to get there. Like, we almost got divorced when I got home from the hospital. We were not communicating. He was not educated. And when I came home, he was very quick to any kind of fluctuation in my mood. He'd be like, "Are you sure you're not manic? Did you take your meds? Are you sure you're not depressed?
Yeah.
Are you psychotic?" Da, 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 da. And I hate that.
I
So we
hate the
had to have a
question, did you take your
conversation.
meds? Did you forget your meds? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just not in
Um,
a good mood today.
we had to have the conversation that I'm just a human being, right? Like, I'm gonna have mood fluctuations. I'm gonna have good days. I'm gonna have bad days. And he knows now what my symptoms and signs are, and he can address it appropriately. But I also have to respect the fact that he's my eyes and ears and can see things I can't. Like,
Yeah.
this is gonna sound crazy, but one of my early warning signs for mania is that, like, I scream, sing, and I dance a lot to like really preppy music and like
Hmm.
don't stop. And so when I'm in the shower and I don't come out because I'm singing and dancing and screaming, he's like, "Hold up. Let's do a check
Uh-huh.
in. Have you slept today? Have you eaten today? Have you made an impulsive decision today? Are we doing dangerous behaviors?" And when it's a no, 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 okay, maybe you're just in a good mood. If it's a yes, another trick thing, early warning sign for me is I spend money like it's going out of style.
That's my,
Um,
oh man, that's
that's
my
a
biggest
problem.
thing on impulsivity. Oh my
Yeah, it's
God, so
hard.
bad. I'm kind of
Yeah,
having
yeah,
that problem
yeah.
right
It's
now.
bad.
Mine's real bad right now. I'm kind of going through a little episode myself, like literally right now. And I've
I'm
had to like
sorry.
give my, yeah, I spent ourselves into the negative in the bank account and before the mortgage was due. And it's
When I was
still today, I haven't paid my mortgage yet, but I will. But before the end of the week, we have to wait for him to get paid again. But, and I spent it on TikTok. And
uh
it's like,
oh,
why? Like, man, but it will be okay.
it will
It
be okay.
will be okay. We work through these things. But I
Yeah.
think it's harder for a lot of people to truly understand how to communicate and how to handle our types of disorders because we're so high functioning on the outside, like what you were
Ah,
saying.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, if we
yeah.
were crazy in the real world, then it would be like, oh yeah, now I see, I can
But
understand why she's acting like that.
here's my problem with the word high functioning. I feel like it puts me into a box where I'm not disabled enough for society,
Yeah.
but I'm not, quote, normal enough for
Normal enough.
society. So they have these expectations of me, but when I get a little sick or when I'm trying to excel, I
That's
don't know.
no, you're
Like
speaking
I
exactly what I think.
I feel like it puts me in this uncomfortable situation where I'm expected to just be something that I can't always be. Like I have episodes like a month ago I was trying to commit suicide. I was so
Right.
depressed. 6 months ago I was manic. I was spending all our money. But I keep those things private. I'm good at talking about the past, but not the current because I am high
Same.
functioning. I am in recovery. And it's like those weak points, people will be like, oh, maybe you are sicker than I thought. Maybe you aren't high functioning. Like, why can't I just be Maddie? Why do I have
Yeah.
to be a label? Why do I have to be low functioning, high functioning? Why can't I just be me?
My goodness. And that's why my podcast is called Unapologetically Marin, because I'm trying to get to that point where I can just be myself. I was an HR director in a, like corporate level for a medical facility. And so I had to be this professional person. And so when I would have my episodes, it made me feel so much worse because I just, how can that be me? And like, I don't know. I'm just losing my train
I'm
of
in the
thought now.
No, no, you're good. Being in the professional world is hard because like when do
Yeah.
you disclose, when do you not disclose? Like so, I have
That's
two
what, yeah.
jobs. I'm a qualified professional in peer support on an inpatient detox and psych unit, and then I started my business, my nonprofit J&E support group. And while people know about my mental health in both of those, a slip up of having an episode, it's like, like under
Yeah.
the microscope, like, can you really handle this? Do you, da 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 da, like, questioned, like, no, I have mental illness and my bad days just look a little different. Like, yes, I can be a professional. Yes, I can do this job. Sometimes I just have to have a little support along the way, and
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. I have to
Right.
say my job with the inpatient unit is pretty good about understanding that. Like they accept me for me, they think it's a beautiful thing, they praise me for it, they celebrate my accomplishments, and I'm lucky to have found a job where I can be so open. But I still struggle when it's the here and now and I'm having symptoms and telling them because I don't want them to like pull responsibilities away from me or view me as sick because
Hmm.
they view me as someone in recovery. And I think that's that fear of being a professional and also having mental illness.
And I also feel it's like I have to learn how to live my own reality because I do it mainly to myself. Like like you said, I don't mind talking about my past. I will tell my story from the day I was
Yeah.
born until I got to where I started. Like you said, we still have episodes now. We still get super
Yeah.
depressed now. We still may have suicidal thoughts now. I've relapsed with alcohol. I'm not completely. I mean, I've relapsed and went back. I mean, I'm in recovery again now, but it was a bouncing back and forth. And those things I don't usually share, and I actually don't even know if I've shared it even on my own podcast. That I don't use when you're trying to speak out and you're trying to get others to break the stigma and break just getting people to get involved and learn about mental health awareness. They assume it's because of your past and now you're better and you're good. So now you're like
And you're
you can be a
cured.
face. You can be the face. But it's knowing that yeah, I've went through but I still go through. And it doesn't make it any different. I'm still in recovery. I'm still a survivor. I still, all have resilience. All these things are so true, but yet I can still be batshit fucking crazy tomorrow. You have to,
Yeah.
I don't, and it's like you just don't want people to be like, oh, well, I was listening to your story because you were a covered alcoholic, and that's like me. Oh wait, you relapsed, 4 months ago. Oh well, you're not in as much recovery as I
Yeah.
thought you were. And it's
It's
and it's
like
not that maybe they'll think that, but I think they're gonna think that. So then I just shut it all out and just don't tell anybody.
it goes back to wearing that mask, right? Like we
Yeah.
have to portray what society thinks, and it's a big thing in society now to talk about people in recovery, whether it's mental health or substance use or both, like us, you know.
Right.
And they do put us on a pedestal. They're creating job positions for it, and I appreciate that. But we also shouldn't be penalized for still having mental illness. Not to say people have done that to me, but I know it is happening out there in the world where, like, yes, I'm going to praise you for overcoming, but oh, the chemicals in your brain take a turn because of the season change, and all of a sudden you're not the respected professional I thought you were. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow. Mental illness is not a choice. Mental illness is not something we want to go through. Um, Mental illness is the way I was born and a trigger to trauma. And I don't know, I also have a problem when people, it's very pop culturally cute to talk about mental health now. Mental health matters. And like, as much
Yeah.
as I appreciate that, there's a lot of people out there who are self-diagnosing who really don't have these disorders. Like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm so moody today, I'm so bipolar, or I'm so neat, I must be OCD, or man, I didn't do that well, I'm so depressed, or whatever it
Hmm.
may be. And
Yep.
that pisses me off because if you had to walk a mile in these shoes, I guarantee you would not be making it cutesy to have
Right.
these disorders. And it's also not cutesy to talk about mental health matters and then do nothing about it. Like,
Right.
one of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody dies by suicide and they all say, well, why didn't they call me? Well, 9 times out of 10, when somebody goes to somebody with a mental health disorder and say, hey, I'm struggling, they say, it's in your head, get over it. What do you want me to do about it? Go talk to a professional. And then that person shuts down and gets worse. And then they may die by suicide. And then people are all of a sudden saying, mental health matters. They should have called me. But where were you in that moment of crisis? Like, that
Right.
happens to me sometimes with people in my life. People who want to just praise me and all these things. And then when I'm in crisis, they want to act like I have like leprosy or something, or like
Hmm.
belittle me, or like judge me, or
We're
shame
being
me,
dramatic and
or
yeah.
ghost me. People will
Yeah.
ghost me when I'm having it, except when I'm better, they expect me to be there for them. But
Yep.
these things are a two-way street. So you can't treat somebody poorly for their mental health and then turn around and expect them to be there for you. Like, if you cannot be there for someone empathetically, compassionately, educate yourself kindly, then maybe that's not the best relationship. And I've had to create some firm boundaries in my life with people who cannot be that person for me. People who, it's not good for my mental health. It's triggering for me.
Right.
When I need them the most and they do what they do to me, then you can't be in my life anymore. I'd rather not have you than you create more of a crisis than I was already in.
Right. And we have to be very selective with our circle. I mean,
We do.
having a support system matters, but it really
It
matters that the
does.
people in it are actually supporting you and at
Yes.
least, if not understanding you, attempting to understand you, having that empathy and compassion towards you. Just someone could be a family member or even a friend and still shouldn't be in your inner circle for your
Yes.
support. They can be your friend, but they
I
don't
have
have to
a
be your support system.
Most of my support system is what I call my chosen family. The
Mm-hmm.
people who've entered my life at random times, who I love dearly and who love me and meet me with empathy, kindness, compassion, and grace and support me through the hard times. That's my family. Blood, marriage, all those things. That doesn't matter to me. That doesn't mean they're
Right.
good for me in my life. It could mean that
Absolutely.
they're just as toxic.
Yeah. A lot of times, I mean, the people the closest to you are the most toxic, depending on, the relationship. So just like you said, you can have a sister or a brother, and you can love them. Doesn't mean that you're going to go to them, for support
Right?
necessarily. Yeah, I'd rather go to my best friend than someone that's maybe related to me by blood. That's just, or maybe just doesn't even understand. And maybe it's nothing cruel or intentional. They just don't like my brother. Love him, my best friend. And for me to have been through all I've been through, my brother is not a supporter of like medication for mental health. He he's someone who thinks you can work, you can work it out. I'm like, brother, I was telling him one day because he was saying, well, I have depression too. I was like, no, you're depressed. You don't have depression. There's a
Yeah, there's
difference.
a difference.
There's a difference. And you know, I have to be treated with medication. And so that I would never be like going to my brother for like my mental health talks, because that's just not
Yeah,
something that it's not that he thinks anything wrong about me. It's just he doesn't his
he's not
child,
that
his
person for
oldest
you.
child, who's now 24, he was diagnosed with bipolar. And it took my mother forcing my brother to allow him to take medication, because he was like, he
Mhm.
doesn't need that. He doesn't need that. I'm like, he should have been my child because he has every symptom, side effect, disorder, illness, or whatever that I have. His son has too, my nephew. So I get him and understand him. So I'm more of a support system for that for my nephew than even his own father, who's an amazing dad, who's his best friend, but may not understand that side of his life, things that he goes through, mental health related, because it's just not something my brother experiences or has
Yeah.
the desire to really delve into. He's going to support me any way he can, but he's not going to ever completely understand.
I think it's hard when people don't live it, but if you choose to be in somebody's life who is living it, educate yourself.
Yes, I tell
Uh,
my husband all the time. I force him. I'll send him stuff all the time, especially on BPD, because that's the most difficult to understand. And
yeah.
I'm like, I just want you to understand and not think I'm being dramatic and not think I'm overreacting, not think I'm being paranoid, not think, like, I want you to get it. And he's trying though. He has read some stuff. He does listen. He's amazing. But it's still gonna take some work to get him to truly understand. Because he'll trigger me all the time with the same things. And then we were just talking about it the other morning. I was like, you know what triggers me. And then you do it anyway because you think I'm being silly. I'm telling you, just don't do it. And it's not gonna make me break. Like, but he's trying. He's an amazing man. I'm proud of us
Takes
for
a lot.
our husbands.
Shout out to the support systems. I think they kind of get lost in the shadows sometimes. Like,
Yes.
I have put my husband through hell and high water
Yeah.
over the last 11 years, and he has not always he has always been there. I remember the way he found out I had bipolar disorder was he saw a scar on my leg from where I self harmed because I always did it on my thighs. Um, and he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, full of shame and guilt and embarrassed, and I wouldn't say anything. And he was grabbed my hand. This was when we first started dating, and he goes, "We're gonna make sure you never do that again." And I started to open up and talk to him about it, but I was really independent with my care at the time, and my
Hmm.
mother was alive, so I had her to lean on. But I remember sitting down with him after her suicide and saying, "Okay, buddy, it's time to buckle up, Buttercup. You got to learn what the
Yeah.
hell is going on with me and be there for me because she's gone now and you are my number one." So he had
Right.
to, I mean, he's joined Reddit support groups. He's read books and articles, and when I have a symptom he doesn't understand or I don't like the way he's handling it, after I take my time, I will find an article and send it to him, and then we will sit down and have a conversation about how that, and I use my I feel I need statements. You statements never work. I talk about my symptoms, and we've really gotten into a groove with our communication, and but he's got his own mental health, and I have to be respectful of that, and he's going to trigger the hell out of me sometimes. That's just the way
Yeah.
it is, and I have
Exactly.
to be able to have a little bit of control within myself, or go
Yes.
to the other room, because he's a human being too who's not going to be perfect all the time.
Yes. I don't know. I feel like you're. I need to remember those things myself about my husband. Yes, there are things he can do different or learn, but I have to give him grace. And I have to
Yes.
understand that I can control it too. I can't just say, you control your actions so I don't break and, you don't trigger
Yes.
me. but I have to learn how to take responsibility too and learn to control it,
Yeah.
regulate it myself too. That's one of my problems. I'm trying to work on myself. It's
It takes
not,
time. I mean, I think
yeah,
the thing about mental illness is we have behaviors, we have outbursts. I know I do, but we can't not take responsibility for them afterwards. Like, mental illness is not an excuse to be a butthole. Mental illness is not an
absolutely.
excuse to have outbursts. Mental illness is not an excuse to treat people any old way. But sometimes it happens. It's not. I'm not excusing it. I'm asking for grace afterwards when I apologize and a way to work through it.
Right.
There's times when I've lashed out and people didn't give me that grace, and I'm like, well, maybe you're not supposed to be in my life. Um, if you can't understand that I'm sick, I'm apologizing, I'm trying to make amends, and you're holding it over my head, well, maybe we're just not meant to have a relationship if you can't
Right.
express me the same kind of compassion I express to you.
Right. Absolutely. I am so glad we got to finally talk and do this.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do some more and talk because I
Yeah.
see so many similarities and just within myself. And so hearing you talk, it actually was kind of very therapeutic for me because I'm like, okay, yeah,
Good.
she overcame that. Yeah. Like now my tooth hurts a little bit less, but not that much less.
Well, I'll come back anytime. We can get into the business, J&E support group, grad school, vision,
Yes.
future, how we can overcome and achieve anything we want to achieve.
Yes, we're gonna have a long conversation pretty soon because I do want to hook up with you and do some stuff. I am so
Yeah.
down and so now I'm fired up too. You got me
Good.
fired up
Good.
because it's like you
Good.
said, making the change. Don't just talk about it. How are you gonna change it? Like, how are you honestly trying to make a change and make it matter?
Take
Like,
control.
yes. Well, I am here to hold hands, girl, and let's make some changes. Let's talk about mental health and, share our stories and just listen and allow others to share theirs. And then, like Pete always says, always have the mental health check ins like, how's your mental health? So just, I'm excited. She's got so many big things coming, you guys, and I can't wait to be a part of it myself. And just stay tuned. There's so much more to come with Miss Maddie. Where can they? You have? I know you're involved in podcasts and different things yourself. Tell them where they
Yeah,
can find more about you.
I host Voice of the Voiceless with Pete versus Anxiety. It's released every Saturday on all streaming platforms. My personal social media is just Maddie Andrews. But I have a nonprofit called J&E Support Group. We have a website, jesupport.org. We're on all major social medias. And my email is on my website. If you need support in any way, you want to join one of our support groups or advocacy efforts, hit me up.
Absolutely, because I'll be doing it too, you guys. Thank you again, Miss
You're
Maddie, and
welcome. Thank
so
you.
sorry for all the rescheduling. I'm telling you, but you
You're good.
understand,
You're good.
shit
Yeah.
happens in life. So, thanks everyone for listening and joining. And we sure hope you guys are checking in with each other, checking on your mental health, just staying strong and make a change. Like, what can you do today to make someone's life better, to make your own life better? Just think about it and do it. Until the next time, you guys, thank you.